Happy Monday, all you mentees. This is the Uncanny Omar from Near Mint Condition, and join me today as I take an advanced look at the Solomon Kane Omnibus from Marvel Comics. So, please stay tuned. And welcome back, all you mentees. Now, before I get started, I want to give a huge thank you to David Gabriel and the folks at Marvel for sending us an advanced copy of this omnibus. This is Solomon Kane, Robert E. Howard. That's right, the same guy that did Cole and this tiny little series called Conan the Barbarian. That is the creator. Actually, he did Solomon Kane before he did Conan, and I'll talk a little bit about that here in a second. The other thing I was going to mention is that this book comes out on August 5th in the direct market. So that's places like cheapgraphicnovels.com, Tales of Wonder, In-Stock Trades, and of course your comic book store. This is the standard edition cover. There is the direct market cover, which has artwork by Howard Chaykin. As a matter of fact, that is the cover to a Marvel premiere book. But this is the standard edition cover with artwork by Patrick Searcher. And I'm not sure if the spines are going to be different, but lately they have been different. The direct market has been different and has a different picture here. And I think the colors are even... Actually, you know what? I think the colors are even different. I think it's green for the direct market version. So I'd love to know which ones you're picking up. This is all the content that's in here, and you're like probably looking at it going, why is it so small? And I'll explain that here in a little bit. And of course, the retail price is $100. Mature content, just for those that are wanting to know. Let's look at it under the dust jacket. So here we have the Patrick Searcher cover, the standard edition. Again, the spine. And here is what the direct market cover looks like. This is artwork by Howard Chaykin. Now, let's take a look inside of this book. Okay, so we have red bookend pages, and I wonder if the direct market's going to have green. It'd be pretty cool if they start doing that. There's Solomon Kane. Now, most of this is going to be in black and white, with the exception of the miniseries and the Marvel premiere books. Really quick, here's all the wonderful folks that put this particular collection together. It is crazy when I think about the announcement that Marvel got Conan, and then the biggest announcement, which is that they were going to do Robert E. Howard's Conan in omnibus format. Here's the table of contents, and then the announcement of Solomon Kane, and then the announcement of Cole. Omnibus. It's crazy. It's such a great time to be a Robert E. Howard fan. I'm sure people probably thought that in the 70s, as all his properties were being turned into comic books and, of course, magazines. So, this book contains Marvel Premiere 33 and 34, the Solomon Kane miniseries. It's a 6-issue miniseries. Material from Conan Saga number 50, Dracula Lives number 3, Cole and the Barbarians 2 and 3, Marvel Preview 19, Monsters Unleashed number 1, and then material from Savage Sword of Conan. That's the magazine that's also in black and white, but it's oversized. And that is an awesome picture here by Bernie Wrightson. Actually, this is the story from Dracula Lives where Solomon Kane runs into Dracula. But then it contains, material from Savage Sword of Conan 13 and 14, 18 to 20, 22, 25, 26, 33 and 34, 37, 39, 53 and 54, 62, 83, 162. So we're looking at different decades here. We're looking at 70s, 80s, and 90s. 162, 169, 171, and then 219 and 220. And in some of those, he actually meets Conan. So yes, this is the magazine Cole and the Barbarians. You have a story of Red Sonja, which unfortunately cannot be reprinted by Marvel because of the Dynamite copyrights. And then, of course, you have Cole and Solomon Kane. So Solomon Kane appeared in a bunch of magazines. He never had his own ongoing series, per se, at Marvel. He was also in the backup stories. It wasn't until he got to Dark Horse that he got, I don't even know if those were, I never read them, so I don't know if they were ongoing or if they were just a collection of different miniseries. So these were originally published in the 1970s and then in the 80s. And like I said, as far as the 90s, and this is just his Marvel appearances. There's no Dark Horse in here. So let's look a little more. So as you can tell, most of this stuff is black and white. I believe if that might be Mike Zeck, if I'm not mistaken. So the writing, most of it is done by Roy Thomas, because Roy Thomas was writing just about everything back then. Yes, okay, so this is Doug Mitch and Mike Zeck. I was right, it looked like Mike Zeck. And then you have, here's the Marvel Premiere issue, Mark of Kane, number 33. And this is the first time that we have it in color. And this color palette, this is the way that the ongoing, or the limited series, the 6-issue limited series, is also done. And here we have more Howard Chaykin. His artwork is changing a little bit. So who is Solomon Kane? And how is he related to Conan? Well, it's interesting because in his early 20s, Robert E. Howard, the creator of Conan, created this character. So he's kind of like a swashbuckling hero that travels from Europe all the way to Africa to fight the supernatural. So zombies and Dracula, of course, and different kind of monsters. So he's almost like Hellsing, right? I just talked about Hellsing last week. But it differs a lot than Conan, where Conan's a barbarian, right? This guy's more civilized. He's almost like a Puritan. And his costume is really badass. I've always been a big fan of his hat and the sword and the cape that he wears. It's pretty badass. But Conan, when Robert E. Howard started writing Conan, sadly Solomon Kane took the backseat to Conan, and all his stories were kind of forgotten. Some of the stories were not finished. And I think they started publishing them in magazines later on, collections, and then, of course, in comic book and magazine format. This is Ernie Chan. That is an awesome picture. You know, I think they're doing a revival of Solomon Kane, too, at Marvel. I haven't read it yet. A newer series featuring the character. So why the mature content? If Marvel was doing the comics code, why do we have mature content in this title? Well, that's because the magazines didn't have the comics code. So they kind of found a loophole. Comic books had to stick to the comics code authority, but the magazines like Savage Sword of Conan or Cole and the Barbarians, they didn't have to. So they're the non-comic code approved magazines. And that's why they have mature content. That's why you have some nudity and, of course, violence that you couldn't really get away with in a normal size comic book. Let's look over here. I don't want to flip through all the pages. And speaking of pages, this book contains 624 pages. Let's look at the miniseries here. So the world of... Oh, actually, before we look at this miniseries, I just want to appreciate some of this artwork here. This is David Winslow. There's so much talent in these collections. I love them. They kind of remind me a lot of the creepy and eerie magazines or Tales from the Crypt. Joe Duffy gets it right. See what I mean? Different talent. And here we have the limited series. This is the story by Ralph Macchio, not the Karate Kid. And it has different artists on each book. Brett Blevins, Steve Carr are the first people on the book. And this is what the colors look like. You know, I was looking at, because I don't own the originals, I was looking at the colors and I'm like, man, this looks like it's got almost computer separation colors. But when I was looking at scans that somebody had online of issue 1, they had a couple of original pages online. This is what the colors look like, which is crazy to think about because this is 1986 when he got his first limited series at Marvel. So here's issue 2. Again, Ralph Macchio, Brett Blevins supplying the artwork. Here is issue 4. This is the one by Mike Mignola with a cover by Mignola. And you can tell, even in 86, it's Mignola's art style with his use of shadows and contrast. Oh, even back then, he was phenomenal. Then later on, I think, John Bogdanove is the artist on issue 5. And then finishing out the miniseries is John Ridgway and Al Williamson on artwork. Then we go back to the magazines, so it's all in black and white. That is an awesome freaking pic. Oh my gosh, that is so badass. That is James Fletcher. I love finding artists sometimes that I wasn't even aware of. Like I remember when I was reading a lot of the older creepy and eerie magazines, there was a lot of big Italian and European artists that took over the books. This, I want to say, Conan the Barbarian meets Kane the Puritan. So this is where 2 of Robert E. Howard's properties, this is so cool, meet each other. Look at this freaking artwork too. And this is all written by Roy Thomas, but I'm not sure who the artist is. Let's see, it should have a title here in a second. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Berserk and the Skull Knight there. It is Colin McNeil. Okay. So this is the first time that Robert E. Howard's properties Conan, at least in my understanding, Conan the Barbarian meets Solomon Kane. That is freaking cool. And Colin McNeil is a badass artist. That kind of reminds me a little bit of Travis Cherish. Some Jim Lee in there, or Mark Silvestri rather. Let's keep going here. Towards the end, like I said, this only collects the Marvel run, not any of the Dark Horse stories. I don't know if they're going to continue those in epic format or not, but this is the first time we have Solomon Kane back at Marvel collecting his original stories. And honestly, this is everything, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, if Marvel published anything afterwards, after those Conan the Barbarian, Savage Sword. But here's all the introductions and original pages from Monsters Unleashed. Savage Sword of Conan. Oh, that is cool. That is from Howard Chaykin. And then, of course, original artwork. And here is the covers. Let's look at this binding really quick. You can probably tell it is sewn binding. There's that eye. Kind of like the Savage Sword of Conan. It's not too huge or anything, but it really does do the job of just laying there where it's supposed to as you're turning the pages, whether it's towards the front or the back. Now keep in mind, of course, I opened it because it's an omnibus the way that I open up all my omnis and stretch that spine. And that is that. Now, when this book comes out on August 5th, you can pick it up from our sponsor, cheapgraphicnovels.com, your online home for brand new graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off the cover price. Cheap Graphic Novels prides itself on packaging your books so they arrive safely and in excellent condition, as well as prompt and helpful service. And check out their bargain bin for even greater deals up to 90% off cover price. And for you minties, Cheap Graphic Novels is running a special promotion. If you're a first-time customer, let them know you were referred by Near Mint Condition at the checkout, and you'll receive a credit for free shipping on your next order. Now, this is only for U.S. customers. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discounts, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. That was the content, the build, and the page count of this omnibus. Let me know in the comments down below which cover you plan on picking up. If you've ever read these, if you've read the Dark Horse stuff, if you even know who Solomon Kane is, I would love to know all of that in the comments down below. Please don't forget to hit like, subscribe, ring that bell for notifications to let you know when our videos are going live. We can be found on Patreon, Redbubble. All of that information is in the description down below. Those are great ways to support the channel if you can do so. And thank you to our existing patrons. Again, this was the Uncanny Omar. Everybody, please stay healthy, stay safe out there, and much love to all of you.